Hello and welcome to the first half of the terms from Vocabulary Unit 11. We're going to go from the word affable to interminable today. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling. We'll start immediately with affable. When a person is affable, they are easygoing, they are pleasant to be around, agreeable, sort of even-tempered. They're the kind of person that makes it very simple for you to be in their presence. To show ardor for something is to show great enthusiasm. For example, like Dante, who looks at Virgil with great ardor, with great zeal, with great enthusiasm, knowing that Virgil's going to steer him right. To ascertain means to find out. Think about it in terms of Percival. He decides after failing his test that he's going to go back to the Grail Castle and ascertain what was the significance of the bleeding lance and the gold chalice. To tear someone asunder is to tear them apart, like Macdonald in Macbeth. Macbeth unseams him from the knave to the chaps. He is torn apart, put into pieces, divided. You could even say this is what happens to Ganelon in the later sections of the Song of Roland. He is quartered, he is cut into four. To show audacity is to show boldness. A lot of times the word is a negative connotation, meaning that you're a little bit overboard in being rude or disrespectful. This is what Percival worries about. He doesn't want to be construed as being too bold or too talkative or too disrespectful, and so he holds his tongue and doesn't ask any questions. I think you can tell that the root word of bequest is to bequeath, and as a noun, a bequest is a legacy. And if you want to use it as a verb, you would be using it in the way of leaving something behind. So a bequest, in terms of a noun, is the act of bequeathing something, of leaving something behind. We most often hear this in terms of a will. You're going to pass it on for someone else to inherit. A bout can be an attack of illness, or probably more recently we use it in terms of wrestling or boxing. So it could be, oops, that's a little messy, sorry about that. An attack of illness or a wrestling or boxing match. We spent quite a bit of money to watch the bout live. Cavalier, as a noun, it comes from military terms, and it's a person who followed Charles, but it's also a man who is dashing and attentive and suave, most often in terms of a soldier. But probably what we'll need to know in terms of it being an adjective, if you have a cavalier manner, it means you show a lack of concern. You're kind of offhand about things. In other words, you're not very sincere. You're kind of signing it off, what a cavalier attitude he had toward her. In other words, he doesn't really care at all. Compunction is a feeling of guilt. I believe we've had this a couple of different times in different literary works. A feeling of remorse. And I think all of us know what conceited means, but here we're going to talk about it as a type of figurative language. A conceit is an elaborate metaphor. So if you're thinking about it in terms of John Donne and his use of the compass, oops, I don't know why that's not working. An elaborate metaphor. For some reason, there's a blank spot on the screen. If you think about John Donne in Valediction of Forbidden Mourning, he uses the compass to discuss how his loved one is centered and local and he's going to go about, but he's always going to have her as his center. You know, that was an elaborate conceit or metaphor. Sorry about that mess there. Okay, as we keep going, conjecture as a verb means to guess, or as a noun, it's the same thing. A guess, a theory. You're trying to determine what something is, so it's a speculation, you could say. Deign is a verb, and it has to do with a feeling of condescension, you know. It's to do something beneath one's dignity. She deigned to talk to the servant. You might say that person has a little bit of a cavalier attitude, too. So it's like, I'm going to do this, but it's beneath me to do so. We see the word detest here, so detestation as a noun is intense dislike. The kind of feeling that existed between Ganelon and his stepson. Disbursement is the payment of money, the payment of funds. When you talk about someone having a sunny disposition, we're talking about their character or their mind, disposition. He had a very pessimistic disposition or an optimistic one. Doughty is an adjective which means brave and persistent. His doughty manner, his doughty spirit kept him going. To dub, I should have said this is an adjective. To dub as a verb is to name, right? I dubbed him the fool of our group. To give a nickname to. But because we're probably going to be dealing with Don Quixote, we're using this in terms of making somebody a knight. So to dub someone is to make someone or to name someone as a knight in the name of St. Michael, St. Christopher, and St. George. An eclogue is a short pastoral poem. Virgil was famous for writing eclogues. It's a short poem dealing with the countryside or rural life or shepherding. To extol is to praise. We will extol the Lord's name. Fidelity is faithfulness. We swear this when we take our vows for marriage, love and fidelity. Finikin is an archaic word. We don't actually use this very much anymore, but you can see finicky in there. So finikin ways as an adjective means especially dainty, especially fastidious, you know, super attentive to detail. You could think finicky if you want. An impediment is an obstacle, something that gets in your way. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. That's what Shakespeare writes in one of his sonnets. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. When something is incomprehensible, it's unable to be understood or grasped. It was his actions were incomprehensible. I can't even understand what he did. The inexorable passage of time. That means it's impossible to stop it or prevent it from happening. The inexorable march of time. Time waits for no man, right? And then if a lecture like this one is interminable, it seems as if it's endless. Right? When you talk about lectures and things like that. Okay, so that's the first half of Unit 11. Thank you.